absolute astonishment, what he discovers is very small metallic implant. But over this implant, and this is obviously a magnification, I'll use my fist, is a secretion, a membrane of some sort. And he takes his scalpel and he tries to cut this membrane and he can't cut it. He then takes a forceps and goes in and yanks this thing out. And it comes out sometimes, he's done 16 of these things since, but it comes out sometimes in 2 or 3 pieces. What he's discovered is when you take these things out and you put them in a petri dish of the patient's blood, and you just let them, and the pieces are, let's say, separated by a half an inch or an inch, come back 24, 40 hours later, the pieces have tried to assemble themselves. How is that possible? These implants are giving out a clock speed of a frequency, which we believe is a sawtooth, which means it's a computer wave, it's a clock speed, at 300 gigahertz, which is 100 times faster than the fastest computer we have on the planet. Inside these things are carbon nanotubes not found in nature. And other compartments, we have no idea what they're doing. But I asked Lear, I said, in your professional opinion, what do you think this implant is? And in sort of a gruff, I'll do my best imitation, he goes, well, changing the person's DNA. But that's what he believes. And that
did you hear that? It's literally going to change a person's DNA. This sounds way beyond robots and way beyond any science fiction things I've ever seen. What is the source, in your opinion? Are there really flying saucers?
Well, there's 2 paradigms a person can embrace. One is the extraterrestrial hypothesis, that these are entities from the Palladium star system or Zeta Reticuli, or, pick your poison, and they're coming here. They are overlords. I call it the coming great deception, that they decided to, that they created all life on this planet. They genetically manipulated early man. They started our civilizations. Now they're back at this critical juncture in human history to usher mankind into a time of peace, prosperity, and
the science fiction people go that way.
Right. The New Ages go that way.
All right. What's yours?
I believe that they're interdimensional beings. They are highly malevolent. They are pernicious. They are evil. They have an agenda. It goes back to what we read in the book of Genesis, Genesis 6. The sons of God, the Benai Elohim, the fallen angels saw the daughters of men. It chose for them wives, and the hybrid was a Nephilim. Isn't it interesting that Yeshua says, as in the days of Noah, so will be when the Son of Man returns? Why is he signaling the days of Noah to us? Why is he pointing at the days of Noah? Because something happened there that is unlike any other time in all of history, and that is the presence of the fallen angels openly presenting themselves on the earth, and I think we're moving into that time.
You've investigated, so I don't think there's ever been a time in planet Earth there's been so many different supernatural phenomena, and most people have not seen the evil or the good, the God or the demonic. So they're setting themselves up for a big fall. Another thing that intrigues me immensely is the discoveries of Torah codes. Explain briefly what that is.
Well, briefly, this is Torah Code 101. If you were to take the book of Genesis written in Hebrew, and you were to do an equidistant letter sequence, and you can do this by hand, and you go every 50 letters, it will spell Torah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I interviewed a man that did Bible codes, and I said, show me, look my name up. And I was shocked. Do you know they not only found my name, the name of it supernatural, but they found the name of my wife, her middle name. She has a unique middle name. I've never even heard of anyone beyond her mother that had that name. It's Thurling. I mean, that was in the Bible codes. I am not a skeptic of these things. They recently found President Obama in the Bible codes. What did they
Well, they did. If you go to Ezekiel 38, chapter
Ezekiel 38?
Ezekiel 38.
And you read the headlines like Iran and everything.
Absolutely. Definitely. And I'd love to talk about that. But and you can do this without a computer. So you don't need a computer to do this. You can just go to Ezekiel 38. If you can read the Hebrew, it spells Obama.
In that passage of all the things that seem to be happening right now, President Obama's name was there?
That's how made that. Well, that's incredibly bizarre. He's the president right now. obviously, and we see in front of us these nations. Remember, this prophecy has lain dormant, collecting dust for 2,600 years. And all of a sudden, in the age that we are in, we see Israel regathered back from the four corners of the earth, reestablished in its ancient homeland. They are truly a nation living without walls or gates, any of that stuff, and they're basically dwelling in safety.
You know what's so amazing is these Bible codes even have predicted the future, and they've come true. For instance, I'll tell you what, when we come back, we'll talk about it. Don't go away.
We'll be right back to It's Supernatural.
Sid Roth here with L.A. Marzulli. And L.A., we're talking about the Bible codes, which are fascinating. Mm-hmm. But what if you took another large book, like, say, War and Peace, and look for predictions in that using the Bible code? What would you find?
It doesn't work. Plain and simple. It just doesn't work. It's not even remotely the same.
But there are things of predicting the future. Mm-hmm. For instance, the Prime Minister of Israel, Rabin. Tell me about that.
There was a Bible code that was done with Yitzhak Rabin's name, and in a very, very tight grouping of letters. Yitzhak Rabin, assassin will assassinate. This was done a priori before the event.
That's very pretty specific.
Absolutely.
But it even gets wilder than that. Someone found it and went to the Israeli authorities, but obviously they didn't pay any attention. Mm-hmm. What about the Bible predicts there'll be strange signs in the skies. Tell me a few.
Well, certainly we're looking at objects around the sun that NASA seems to redact. Those images from the SOHO twin satellites redact, meaning they brushed them out several hours after researchers will look at them. Good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Tell me about the moon.
We looked at films from YouTubers all over the planet who were looking up at the moon, filming the moon and going, hey, I'm not an astronomer or anything, but I'm looking at this body, and it's not where it should be. It looks different. It looks weird. Well, if one person says that, you kind of dismiss it. But from all over the globe, people reporting the same phenomena. Well, so we did some research on it, my partner and I, Richard Shaw. And what we discovered was a paper by an Italian scientist by the name of Lorenzo Iorio, and he wrote a paper called The Eccentricity of the Lunar Surface. He thinks that there's a large body coming into the solar system, which is perhaps making the moon act in an erratic way.
Well, there was actually a Torah code about the moon in a particular year. Explain that.
Well, the Torah code, which is really interesting, because when this was all happening, my partner Richard Shaw sent it to the rabbis, and so they did a Torah code, and it said, moon will be observed in the date, basically 2011. And anomalies in the lunar surface will be observed in 2011. So the Torah code sort of corroborated what we had been investigating, which I found absolutely fascinating.
He has an understanding of the mark of the beast I've never heard before, and it rings true. I think it's historic, what you're going to share. Will you do that right now?
I'd love to. Thank you for allowing me to do this. We see in Matthew 24, Yeshua states something, as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man returns. Alluded to that before. What differentiates those days are the presence of the fallen angels. But there's also some other dynamics in that passage which we overlooked. One of them in particular is the length of lifespan. 5, 6, 7, 900 years old people lived, and I believe that's literal. They lived to 900 years or older, okay? Hold that thought, then jump over to the book of Revelation. It says, and we all get this one, that anyone who takes this mark will not be able to buy, sell, or trade. That's an easy one, right? But then we find out that anyone who takes this mark, whatever this thing is, grievous sores will appear over the body. Then we find out in the book of Revelation also, anyone who takes the mark is immediately thrown into the lake of fire. There's no grace. There's no mercy. It's just, you've got the mark, bam, you're in the lake of fire. Not my words. Those are the words of Yeshua, and those are in the book of Revelation. A little further on, we read something which is not necessarily tied into the mark of the beast, but here's the deal. It says that in those days, the days of the mark, men and women will seek death and not find it. How can that possibly be? I've held the chip from Dr. Lear in my hand. I've asked him point blank, what is this thing doing? It's changing the DNA. This thing, and this is how they're going to do it.
This is the chip that people that go into flying saucers after surgery.
These are the prototypes.
By the way, did this doctor find that these people were loonies?
No, not at all. All these people that have been abducted, most of them, I would say well over 90%, do not want any notoriety. In fact, they seek anonymity. They're not interested in any type of publicity. They just want the thing out.
Why doesn't the U.S. reveal all the information they have on flying saucers. Other nations have done it.
Well, the other nations have done it. Greece, United Kingdom, France, Belgium, Germany, Japan, Mexico, Brazil. They've all released, I should say, what were at one time top secret documents. We don't do it, and I think the reason is simply this. They fear some sort of a backlash, religious backlash. What happens if people all of a sudden find out that maybe the God we've all believed in isn't? This is what I call the coming great deception, and I believe it's been orchestrated for thousands of years.
This changing the DNA.
Okay.
Why would someone want a chip inside of them?
Here's the scenario. Let's say there's a war, upcoming war in the Middle East, and we see some sort of a nuclear holocaust. Remember, this is just a scenario, okay? So we see a nuclear event in the Middle East, perhaps in this country, and all of a sudden, mile-wide UFOs begin to manifest, begin to appear all over this planet. How is that going to affect everyone? But they'll come with two things. They'll come with a free energy source, and they will come with a chip, and this goes right back into what Matthew 24 states. They will come with this implant, which when you take it, will bring you into, as a member of a new world order, okay? And when they scan this thing, not only will it have its medical records, but it will change and correct your DNA. That's what we'll be told.
So
correct
in other
your DNA.
words, you'll live longer.
You'll live to 500 years disease-free. All this.
So who's going to say no? Only someone that knows the Lord.
Exactly.
Only. And you can see why they'd be enemies of the
Absolutely.
of the
We'd
world.
be looked at as Neanderthals. How can you possibly believe in this ridiculous mythos of a Judeo-Christian God? Why not just take this mark and live disease-free for 500 years? It sounds like a great deal. And I've held it in my hand, and this is what I think is coming, and it's the only thing which fulfills all that criteria which we just spoke about that's found in the book of Revelation.
And as far as timing, isn't it interesting in this whole scenario of what we see shaping up right now with the nations coming against Israel is on the horizon with Obama's name in the secret code of it shows you how soon it will be that the Messiah is going to return. Tell me about the rapture vision you had, real brief, because there is a blessed hope.
I didn't seek this, I didn't in any way. I was getting ready to go in the shower, so unlike our last guest, I didn't fast or pray or any of that stuff. I was just getting ready to go into the shower. I was not in the body or out of the body, I can't tell you, just like Paul says. All I know, I was snatched up, I found myself in the heavenly scene. I was there for 3 seconds. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, bam, back again. Second one, I look around and I can see that we're not sandwiched in like sardines. To my utter amazement, that my sin nature, what I mean by that is all the little nasty stuff that we do that crops up, even though we don't want it to, it just crops up and sort of eats at us, our anger, our bitterness, whatever it is. All that was gone, and I was liberated. That's in 3 seconds, and then bam, I was back, and I wept.
Well, let me tell you something. This has never happened to me before, but a few days before this interview, I woke up from a dream, and this is what I was saying in the dream. Jesus is coming soon. Jesus, I said it 3 times. Jesus is coming soon. I say to you, Jesus is coming soon. Are you ready?
Well, I've never seen him that excited.
An increase in wars and rumors of wars, mass flooding, spontaneous outbursts of Arab unrest, increase of earthquakes, tsunamis and volcano activity, unexplained sinkholes.